the one.
G'day guys, welcome to the next episode of Two Red Chairs. This is the podcast where I, Frank, am talking with other fellow designers from Australia and around the world. So this is my next guest. He is Brandon Groce. He's from the US. He is a UX designer, and I'm going to introduce him now so he can tell you a bit more about what he does for his career and where he's got to, and it's a really interesting story on what he does. So g'day Brandon, how you doing, mate?
Doing pretty plentiful, feeling very good. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. We're in two different time zones, obviously, so I'm at the start of the day and Brandon's towards the end of the day here. So we're going to try and keep it up in the air, keep the energy up from my end. I think Brandon's always got some energy, which is amazing. So, Brandon, if you could give us a bit of an introduction of what it is you do and what's led to where you are now, just to give everyone a bit of context.
For sure. So if you don't know your boy, my name is Brandon Groce. I'm a designer and digital strategist for Fortune 500s. And I happen to educate designers that were basically in the position I was a couple years back, how to position their brand and get hired with the brands that they would like to work for and or with. So that is a little bit about me in a nutshell. Lay it down. What do we need to get into, Frank? You lay down the lane and I will traverse.
Let's go for it. So that intro that you gave was something that you do on the intro for your own content, for your videos. It's your boy Brandon Groce, work with Fortune 500 companies. I'm interested on that particular part. How is it that you've got to work with those Fortune 500 companies in your career so far?
That's a great question. So let's reverse the tape real quick. How I started, for context, I did not go to college. I basically slept on the floor, ate peanut butter jelly and sandwiches, and slept in the sleeping bag didn't have cockroaches per se, but they were basically my neighbor. Not far from them. Sure, I've eaten a couple in my sleep. So basically, hard knocks, figuring out how this digital life or this digital industry worked by working with startups and eventually working with a fairly large client in the fitness industry and moving. I'm from Maryland in the United States, and I was living in Texas at the time. My home is Maryland. I moved back to Maryland, ended up working at a design agency, and was able to work with some very high-class clients such as Volkswagen, Salesforce, Disney, and just a lot. And so I got a lot of experience in the designing side of things, which is great. That was cool. But at the same time, I was really infatuated with teaching as well. I'm a martial artist by trade. I've been in martial arts and really training full time from the age of 8 to 16. And so I really wanted to learn how to teach. So I was, on YouTube watching people like Rand Segal, Jesse Showalter, people who were teaching online. And then I started to get my feet into creating content, which then led to, just trying to pick a task to create some discipline in myself. I hadn't, when I moved back from Texas to Maryland, I had not trained for a consecutive amount of years. And I wanted to create another task for myself to instill some discipline in me because I wasn't training any longer. So I was posting 2 to 3 times a day, Monday through Sunday. And you're probably like, Brandon, why the hell are you doing that? What was the goal?
I do the same thing at the moment.
Yes, but so yeah, there's a whole bunch of people you guys will see in the design space. You got people just churning out content like nobody else's business, and in carousel form, which we can talk about later. Because anyway, you guys, I have not been on Instagram because you carousel makers. I know you guys make great stuff, but a lot of y'all making really redundant stuff. Anyway, we're not gonna burn any bridges today.
That's so good,
so you're like, it's okay, Brandon.
By the way, guys, it's burnout.
And I would like to.
So in terms of consistent, let's get back to that consistency part because I think that's quite interesting. The parallel there.
Yeah. So it was just a task for myself for consistency. I had no real goal for it besides like, can I do something consistently day in and day out? And actually there was a goal. I saw other people like these inspiration boards being able to grow like silly large followings, and I was like, can I do this but with a human aspect? And so I tried that, did really well, and I actually did this in not just my own personal account but with a gaming PC account, and that actually took off before my own account. It got to 60,000 2 years ago.
Damn. And what kind of content was that then?
It was, I'm not sure if this is the professional term, it's probably not, but it's like PC nerd porn that has nothing to do with anything sexual of the kind. But it's basically like super cool setups for massively nerdy people. Like if you don't want to get up out of bed and
like
you just
gaming
play
setups and that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Amazing. I like that.
At the time, I wanted to do like a Shopify store because every entrepreneur or every YouTuber was trying to like sell somebody about Shopify or Bitcoin or something. I got on the Shopify train and I tried to do this with social media in this area, and it worked pretty well. And it was a good like test company or test project, and from that I just got a whole bunch of learnings to then apply to my own stuff. And at the time, I think around where that was around like 60, 70,000, my account was like at 10,000, 20,000. But the thing is I got a lot of partnership opportunities with LG. LG actually reached out to me via email and was like, yo, we like what you're doing. Do you want to do X, Y, and Z campaigns with us? And it only started with one. And by the way, I actually thought it was a phishing scam because I was like, who the fuck sent me a Korean email? Like, who? You think you got me? You really think? And then I was like,
I thought that would be exactly my thoughts. I'd be like, I'd show my wife and go, "This, here, darling, this is the prime example of a phishing, like just absolute spam, like ha ha ha," and then just write back some like bullshit response.
Exactly, but you got to do your due diligence, and I just copied and pasted the name into Google, and I was like, oh, this really is the marketing manager of LG. Okay. Let me go ahead and respond to this. So I did about 3 campaigns with them on social, and that was my experience with LG. And the only reason it was 3 campaigns is because I really just I wasn't super serious about building that brand. It was more so like a testing thing, and it was an accident.
Yep. So how did they come across you? Was it just the content you were putting up on your personal page, and what interested them the most? Then, if anything,
numbers. It was insane. Okay. I was one of the smallest accounts, but with running the largest motherfucking numbers. I was outperforming because I was posting 3-4 times a day and just blowing up hashtags. Like no others. Like there were pages with 1 million followers, and I was running more numbers than they were. So
just in terms of engagement, then, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, gotcha.
So
it's impressive, dude.
Yeah, it was crazy. It actually kind of pisses me off because my numbers still have not exceeded. Like I had posts with like 7,000, 10,000 likes and engagement. The impressions were ridiculous, and I've not even gotten close to it.
I guess that shows a decline in that organic reach that a lot of people are kind of talking about from the top end, noticing it, especially because they have the numbers and they can see what it was. Whereas people at the bottom, where kind of I am, you don't really notice it as much, and you still have that compounding growth. But for when you do have that height, that's definitely when you're going to notice it. So that's interesting to see you experience that, which is. This is what I wonder if Instagram is going to change things up so that things change, or if it's going to, die in the pants like Facebook and have to be something completely different or whatever, which is a very interesting conversation. So,
yes.
From your experience with LG, then, I know that's led to other opportunities. How have they come to pass, and what's that kind of experience like?
So from LG, I kind of learned, and it was like my first foothold into understanding like how a digital account or online brand could work with another partner to kind of get an outcome. And then I was just like, from that, how can I kind of do that with my own iPhone? We're turning you off. We're not trying to talk to you right now.
He's a popular man.
So I kind of took that learning and tried to figure out how I could do that with my own stuff. So obviously there's plenty of partners you can partner with. You just have to understand like who your audience is and what of value is that audience to another partner. Obviously to you, they could be a value asset to your product or service that you can tack onto their wants or needs. But who can you find that already has a very robust product or service that can profit and or work with you to,
Sure.
I'm really trying to avoid the word take advantage because that's not the word.
Yeah,
Well,
no, I
no,
understand
take
that.
advantage
Yeah,
of
yeah.
the opportunity of
Yeah,
what
to
you
maximize
have
the opportunity.
going.
Yeah. Totally understand
So,
that.
That's what that opened up. My mind and the understanding that is what you can do with an audience. And then that's how I started reaching out to actually I didn't reach out to Adobe. Adobe reached out to me because I did a couple pieces of content consistently about them, and then they brought me on for a couple pieces of content, just small things.
Yep.
And then I started pitching things because I got more comfortable.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. How is it that you, if it's not people approaching you, then are you going out actively to ask and say, hey, I've done this before or that, and presenting the mutual advantages of that engagement?
There's always two sides. There's people who are scoping people out. Like for example, Pantone has contacted me a couple times to do stuff with them, but I'm not sure we're still trying to figure out how we can mutual benefit. And then, so there's always different people who are looking for talent to help them with their content. Because as a company, and I'm only talking about like people finding you side right now. So there is an active, what is the word? It starts with an I. There's an active initiative at companies where they're like, okay, we need to find talent that can basically create content for us. Having those people in-house is hell of expensive. So that's why it's extremely advantageous if you do have an audience to go and pitch these brands you're constantly looking at that you feel is a market fit between you and them, because it's too expensive for them to have these people in-house. If you make good content, even if you don't have a following, if you can make good content, they will hire you. Yeah, and so that took me a while
to put on their platform. If that was the instance,
yes.
Yeah, okay, yep.
Like if you have an idea for something that you can create with them, and let's say you have like 500 followers, I know of people who have been like, "Yo, X, Y, and Z company, here is my skill set. Here's what I can offer to you. I see that you have done this in the past on your social platforms. I can help you as well, and at this price point, here's a little bit of something that I've been thinking about." Take a look. But there's preparation that comes with that. That's pitching your talents, but also your value to this potential partner. And that is on the side of actively pitching people. You could have an audience and you're trying to, you already have like the proof in the pudding of this is how much traffic you run. This is what your audience wants. And now you're just trying to bridge the gap between your audience, your personality, and your value add to these larger partners that can come in and mutually benefit. So it's the side of the pitching and showing your value and what you can bring to the table versus sitting and waiting. And this started by accident, but you can't constantly rely on happy accidents.
Yeah,
we're not Bob Ross out here as much as I would like to be. So
just add a little demo.
Yeah, shit. I wish I could be painting birdies and trees all day, but don't. I can't make money doing that.
Yeah. I think that's super interesting because I think that's probably one avenue that a lot of designers probably wouldn't consider, where you'd be of a mindset where you'd start your own business, let's say, or you've just graduated, and the only kind of avenue that you'd have in having a design career would be either working in-house or as a freelancer maybe, and working with other brands to create content for them is probably not even a consideration. And I think this is why I really wanted to have a chat with you about this, is that it is, and there are other avenues, like you could be doing affiliate marketing, you could be doing the sponsor stuff, you could be doing your own sort of content that can generate, products or whatever, that kind of thing. So this is super interesting to me in that, from my perspective, doing branding for businesses, you usually have, like, the businesses that I would work with are small to medium businesses. So there's a personal story there. But when you're working with a big company, it's more of a faceless brand. So this is exactly why someone would reach out to someone like Brandon to engage with them, to be able to create content and put a face to it. So there was a bit of a humanality and commonality between the people that they're trying to target, being, say, designers, if it's Adobe, and be able to add a bit of value and a bit of context and relatability and all that kind of stuff, because a brand just can't effectively do that. Even if it's from people in-house, it doesn't seem as maybe authentic, do you reckon?
I mean, I think there's a sense of authenticity, but I think I do know that people buy into people and not necessarily large organizations. And I think that is why we have an influencer marketing thing or industry happening now. People are trying to purchase the trust and personality of individuals that can rep brands. That's why we have, what is the term? It's been around even before influencer. Brand ambassadors, right? Those are the faces of a particular brand, and we have evangelists, we have people who are repping a certain part of an organization or certain brands. That's why there's always the face of the company, and then there might be somebody who's in the back. They might be doing process-oriented things, but they are very into how the business is running in terms of operations, but there needs to be a front guy or gal being able to
be that face,
get the trust of the individuals or the customers, the people.
I think it's tremendously great, and probably, as I said, an opportunity that designers aren't thinking about. In terms of expectations on yourself to not perform, but to have, you said it could be off the metric that you get hired for something like this, being your follower count or whatever, or your skills involved. But then is there other expectations in terms of delivering on reach and likes and engagement, all those kinds of things with the content that you make if it's going to be on your own platform?
Yeah, and it's all about what you're trying to sell. Again, going back to, it goes to how you're going to pitch it. We're going to talk about two ways of how to pitch it.
Yep.
For example, in my last project with Adobe, I said this is the type of metrics that I'm going to run, and here are the results in terms of how many views, impressions, etc. that we're going to get from this. That's one way of selling your product. Your product at that point is your audience, and the translation of audience to customer, right? The second way to bundle it to pitch it is, instead of your numbers, is I see that you don't have this type of content in the market. I am capable of making this type of content, and I understand, because you guys haven't made it, that there is either something internally that you are more focused on. But because your competitors are doing something very similar, I think it would be highly important for you guys to, on the same front, do something similar, or, fill that space.
Yeah, definitely.
And if you see some sort of initiative that is happening, but it isn't like full-fledged and you can do better, that is what you pitch. You pitch your service, it's more like you are the creator, rather than on this side, it was like the creator and the deployer of this ad. Over here is like you're basically a human ad, is kind of the easy way to explain it. And over here is like you are the creator and you're getting paid to create this idea.
So would you, in that instance, if you're pitching an idea like that to see a gap in their marketing or advertising or whatever it is, do you need to be showing that kind of work in, say, your portfolio to demonstrate that this is actually something I can do? I mean, it sounds like an obvious thing, but at the end of the day, if it's something you might have created before, but you have the skill sets, you obviously, I'm guessing, having to demonstrate that skill set in some way, shape, or form, yeah?
Yeah, and to double it up, I would never approach anybody if I haven't built any sort of proof of concept, already have something in going overboard is always better than in overachieving is always better than being like sending an email, hey, I have this idea, would you be interested? I don't know, I've never had success with, or maybe my emails just suck. I've never had success doing it that way. People don't get interested in that. I wouldn't be interested.
No,
I would be interested if somebody sent me some. It's my food alarm. I would be interested if I'm a very timely person, people.
That's so good. That's so good.
I would be way more interested if somebody was like, would you be interested in something like this? Has X, Y, or Z attached. I can see like a 1 or 2 minute video of exactly what they are, they would like me to consider, or even like a 10-page deck doing a high summary of, what are they talking about? What is their plan for execution? What can I expect from this project, and what are the next steps? Because that outlines to me, one, this person is highly, he's not just pitching me an idea. They have something in mind. They've spent this time on this, and they've already risked some of their time. So let's see where this leads. And it could even just open up another conversation of something that they truly do need, and you can be that person to fill that up. So it might not be your idea, but you've gotten somebody's attention in a very important position, and that can open up a partnership. So there's always 2 ways, figuring out that value.
How would one go about finding the right person then, if you are actively pitching? Like, is it finding somebody via their contact information on LinkedIn? Is it approaching the company and just, calling reception and just asking for that particular person that you're looking for, the marketing manager of Disney or something
Excuse
like
me.
that? Can I speak to Bob Iger, please? What would that process look like for a designer if they wanted to do something like this?
For sure. I am a massive digital stalker. So what I like to do, and I was talking to somebody about this, is it's stalking for the right reason. And I call it that to be funny, but it's truly just being informed so that you can hop into the correct conversation and at least be educated about who you're talking to, what they do, and you don't just like show up empty-handed and not being seen as somebody who didn't take the time to even figure out who you're talking to begin with.
Yeah, I hate that. I get contacted like that, just cold kind of thing with providers that do websites and all that kind of stuff. And it's just like, hey, and then there's spiel, and it's like, I've got a website. If you had looked at my profile, you would have seen it. It's up and going. Like, you've just sort of wasted an ad spend there. And
yes. Like today, I literally got an email and it said, excuse me, could you please tell me if I have been in contact or I have contacted somebody who is a graphic designer? I was like,
have a look.
we're just gonna let that email just sit there.
I had a good one as well. It was just to compare. It was a guy that said, where would I find a good branding person? Like, how would I know how to choose the right branding person? I was like, choose someone you know, like, and trust. And they're like, oh, so you wouldn't recommend finding anyone online? I was like, well, I do this stuff. Like, are you kind of playing hard to get here or something like that? Well, this is a weird interaction. If you had a look at my feed kind of thing, you would see what the hell I'm talking about, which is an odd thing. So, yeah, for you, it would be stalking in a good sense.
Well, do your homework. Actually do your due diligence. Do those Google searches. And if we're talking about titles of who you need to reach out to, so it's either the marketing manager or it is, some of these companies have there's like a whole social media department, and there's like head of social partnerships or head of something related to influencers. Or
like influencer marketing or something like that.
Yeah. It's either in the marketing department or they have a specific social media marketing manager. And even if you don't email the right person, if you have done your homework on who you're contacting in the first place, you could, and the other person you really need to find is a little difficult, you can always email somebody and ask them to, just ask a question. A lot of what, I forget this too. We forget that we can legitimately ask. Like, I've asked just for like, hey, do you know I have to get this thing done. Do you know anybody who could help me out with this? And they're just like, yeah. Let me introduce you to so-and-so tomorrow. I'm going to put some time in your calendar. And I would be like, oh, we can do that? And so Snap. It's just, seriously, I really do forget, and even today on some of the calls I've been on, you know, anybody can get space on my calendar if they show the space on anybody's calendar if they show why that time would be valuable to both ends, or just a genuine conversation. It's the human component, even though simplified it is a human component, showing that you care and that you took the time to really research this person and just reaching out.
Yep.
It really does go a long way, and I'm just now realizing that after literally at the end of this year, just ask. Yeah. Even though I talk about it.
Asking you shall receive. I'm finding that a lot. Sometimes I think we're just very hesitant to ask because we don't want to put people out or things like that, or have to have something owed, or fear rejection, that kind of stuff. I think there'll be a lot of mindset going on there, which is troubling for every designer and every person under the sun, I would imagine. That aside, in terms of the interactions you've done with brands, then what would be a couple of examples, let's say just for brevity, of the ones that you've really quite enjoyed doing, and what did that involve doing? Was it, blog kind of content? Was it video content? Was it showing up at appearances? That kind of stuff?
Yeah. So there's two favorite kinds. Obviously, you guys are going to be like, well, you went to Adobe. Well, you probably don't know I went to Adobe Max. The conference things are always so freaking amazing. You get to meet the people you've been conversing with online, building the relation. Like, in-person things are way more important and way more bonding than anything ever online. I met so many people that I just regularly talk online, and it's just in the seconds that we met just strengthened our relationship. So that sort of thing is really cool. On-site sort of activations are really awesome, but I really love video just because I love running my mouth. And one thing that I love just talking and teaching as well. And a lot of the stuff that I've learned in working and doing these sort of partnership opportunities with the likes of Adobe is that, sometimes they have an event that they would really like you to help bring attention towards. And so that might make your content, your content is driven for a specific task, and you kind of have to be creative about how you're going to teach and also bring awareness to this specific campaign. And there also could be times where you have full creative freedom if you've pitched that project correctly. So there's different ways that, or those are the two ways that I have experienced it, where you really have to, work with them to figure out what is going to achieve their goals, what is going to achieve your specific audience goals, and still get the good results on the end.
So in terms of that, then, does that client or brand give you a sense of what, not to say, but to keep it in a realm where it doesn't become salesy? Like if you're not all that confident in doing something like this, and you don't want to come across as salesy, you go, you've got the new Adobe, Creative Suite update, it's out now, or there's a 40% off discount for Black Friday, without coming across as that salesy kind of person. Is there some like guidance there, or is it a working sort of partnership to figure out what's the best avenue for your, audience?
Yeah, to be honest, there is a lot of flexibility. They don't tell you what to say. They're just like, you need to make sure that you don't mention any of our competitors and that this is the event that's happening, and figure out, we know this up front. It's just like, before anything gets made, they're like, this is the event that we're trying to build awareness around. And there's content that you also produce around the people who go to these type of events. How can you mesh the two? And where your job becomes, how can you really create good content for that? So the only way you would be able to really pigeon yourself in any of these situations, if you really don't take the time to sit down and figure out what your audience would absolutely love in combination with the goals of the partner you're working with.
And when starting out when you first did like that LG kind of interaction there, did you feel not like a sellout, but I think that's not the kind of terminology I'm looking for. It's something that, did you feel a bit weird about that, or anxious about putting something that's brand related to an audience that you'd not actively demonstrated any sort of connection with any brand or sale or awareness? Did that feel a bit unnatural, or was it just, this is, I think this is advantageous to you, so I think this is a good thing for everybody involved?
I will give an example of when I did feel anxious and I did not work with the people. So I don't work with anybody unless I feel I can give something of value. There have been partnership opportunities where they had the check ready and they were like, let's just go. And I was like, no, I would not use this shit. No, thank you. It's a nice check, but no, thank you. People can get into that issue, but that's where you just like, do you really just want the money or that short-term thing, and then have all of your audience be like, I don't want that green tea, gives me the shits. Like, what? Like, unfollow me tomorrow if I have.
Yeah.
Yes. So there's trade-offs there. But that's just something you have to know for yourself, and you have to know the repercussions of that.
What that can do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Has that happened at all then, in terms of demonstrating an involvement?
I understand.
You've aligned yourself well. Yeah.
Yes.
You're a good practitioner.
There's so many opportunities, but you just have to know, like, is this the long term? Like, if you're just in it to be like I don't even know anybody who does it like this, but if you just want to be like a person that's like a physical ad space, sure. But I understand that, like, yeah, it's
just ads all over your face, yeah.
Yeah, just putting tattoos of all these brands that are not really reputable but know how to cut a check is not very good for long-term brand building. That's like if like one of our beloved brands, like if Hilton started promoting them, like the Hyatt, well, I'm pretty sure that is a freaking Hilton hotel. Marriott, if they started like promoting the Marriott, or like they started promoting like random things that don't make sense.
Don't align, yeah.
Like, no.
Yeah. No, I think it's common sense for sure. And that's probably why you'd see probably a lot of influencers that just don't get it right.
Yeah.
Be called out for it and be like, I don't get the connection here, and it's like, you've just sold me an ad on something when I thought this was a bit of your content. And what? Like, I've seen that happen with a couple of people, and they've had to go, look, I said paid promotion here, kind of thing, and I'm sorry that it's offended you or whatever for different contexts. But I think if you can be very mindful of it, obviously. I mean, I've never had this interaction, so I'm speaking from no experience at all. But from a logical standpoint, I think that makes tremendous sense to be wise about what it is you're doing and who you're working with. To kind of pivot a bit the conversation, you have as well your own podcast, Design Huddle time, or is it Design Huddle? It's
Design Huddle, but some asshole took Design Huddle on Instagram. So,
it's like my g'day Frank on Twitter. Oh, God. So in terms of that, have you found any kind of relationship that a brand has looked for exposure during that podcast? Like, is that sponsored?
It is not. That is something that we're trying to figure out. I got super in-depth in the conversation today, which is why I'm super pumped today. Well, I'm super pumped every day, except when... Guys, I told Frank... You can cut this out if you want. I've had to take... This is how exciting today has been. I've been needing to take a shit for the last 4 hours, and I have forgotten every hour that has passed that I need to take this shit. But, anyway, regardless, going back to the podcast. No, we have not gotten any sponsors. Specifically right after that sentence. No, we're really trying to figure out how we can do that. We have had quite the brands reach out to us and just have people on the podcast, but I don't want to hop to monetizing that just yet. We only have 4,000 listens a month, and that's still pretty small. And so, like I finally was able to monetize my brand account. And I'm not saying it's not doable. I just don't know the strategic way of how to pitch this new platform as of yet. And I've been, with the conversations I had today, just some gears are starting to turn on that and figuring out how I can position the platform to other partners. So that is still really a white area for me. I'm still like a baby when it comes to understanding how to monetize that, but it will be a combination of ways to bundle this. And I'm just thinking out loud here of what I've been piecing together is the bundle of not only Design Huddle, my personal brand, Ryan's brand, and a couple other things that we're going to be doing with the website and the hub, by the way. So you guys get I don't know when this is coming out, but when is this coming out?
Probably mid-December, I'd say.
Damn, y'all are late. Okay,
yeah.
So
sorry, everybody.
No. We are going to have a Design Huddle hub where we're going to be doing a lot of cool things, including design competitions. That's one of. I'm just going to give you that sneak peek. We're going to be doing.
Well, if this has already come out, then you may as well just blurt it out.
But I don't want. There's stages.
That's
levels.
That's all good. That's all good. Yeah,
there's
that's all good.
to
That's exciting though. That's good. Layering in your brand there, which is amazing.
Yeah, we definitely have to go outside of Instagram because Instagram has changed so much, man. Like I have access to 1.2% of my audience on a rough day. Like good day, we're talking about 1.87. And I used to, at a lower capacity, be able to reach close to the impressions I would run were very close to 3/4 of a million. And now it is around very close, like 300, 400.
Yeah.
In a week.
Significantly changed. So that was probably going to be my next question is where do you see your own sort of personal brand pivoting maybe, or do you have a sort of a game plan of where you would look to next? Is it just diversifying? What does that kind of look like for you for a roadmap?
So diversifying, we're definitely bringing back, because there is a show in the works for Design Huddle, and I am obviously going back to YouTube to do some of this, but also have a foothold in terms of search. One thing I don't like about social media in terms of the Facebook type companies is that they are purely about virality. And you may have 15 minutes or 15 weeks of, fame, but you have to be able to spin that out and be business savvy enough to understand, you have to have multiple different footholdings. And also, most importantly, you have to have direct access to your audience. So we're talking email list, by providing, free long-term value. This is why I came out with my webinar, so I don't have to constantly be in my DMs and just answering a lot of questions there. And also going through a rebrand. Like a lot of people are like, we just know you for either your personality or your awesome designs, or that we know that you give some tips to early designers. So I'm rebranding into, and this goes in part with Design Huddle, like Design Huddle's to help early designers either get into the industry, get hired, or just improve. And that's why we reach out to top industry level executives or people who have gone through this journey so we can reverse engineer their success and bring some of those gems down. So going to rebrand to I help you get hired, basically. And that is and be a better designer. Those two things. Nice. So
and
a lot of things in the
specific, fairly much in the space of UX, UI kind of stuff.
More than that. Granted, it is UI design, but we're also we're getting a lot of people in that space to talk with, and I think that's a great starting place. I think that is our main audience right now, so we're sticking with that. But we would love to move into. It would be like UI UX. Creative entrepreneurs, like people who are trying to start businesses or agencies that would be like the broader audience. And that would be those two things. That's where our eyes are on right now.
I mean, I'm always of the opinion that the more the better, because if you pigeonhole yourself with one kind of train of thought of education, let's say, if you're only let's say, just focusing on Brandon, or you're just focusing on the future, or Michael Janda, or shit, if this design life thing takes off, if it was me, I hope to God it's not just me that someone's following. To be able to diversify your learning and take bits from everybody, I think it's amazing to be able to offer that in different contexts, and that way you're not having to not dislike that person just because of their personality, but you like their content, but that you can find someone that you can engage with as well at the same time as learning. You've got all these opportunities now that people are giving back now. Whereas I think in the design space, a lot of creatives are very, not introverted isn't the right word, it was very insular, to keep and guard all the secrets to the castle and not, give the learnings what they've, come to learn. So kudos, man.
Much appreciated.
Very good. All right, I think we might leave it there. Brandon has given us a heap of bombs there, and I think he needs to take a big dump right now.
That's
all right.
My seat is quite warm.
Yeah. Brandon's an amazing personality, and that's one big reason why I wanted to have him on here early in this podcast that I've started up here. So thank you so much, mate. It's been a pleasure, and I'm still learning a lot from you as I go, which is much appreciated from my end. So thanks so much, mate, for coming on here. How can people find you on Gram, on wherever it is, and your podcast as well?
For sure. So, guys, you can find me on Instagram at Brandon Groce. Groce is spelled Groce. Super simple. Now, my website, same thing, brandongroce.me. And if you're looking for the best design podcast of all time, second place to Two Red Chairs.
Two Red Chairs. Oh, yeah, there we go. I'm fine with that.
Guys, we're not even fucking in red chairs. Can you believe this? I didn't even get loaned a red chair to be in.
It's fake news. This is where we can Photoshop or After Effects the shit out of this.
Yeah. See, this is why I needed my green screen today, guys. In Design Huddle, super simple. I'm on there with my boy Ryan Warner, who's the global product partner of Google. We talk about all things UI, UX, how to get hired, how to up your game in understanding UI, UX, whether you're new to the game, trying to transition careers, or just learn something new or build a business.
Amazing.
And
done.
That's it.
Fantastic. All right, mate. Well, thanks so much for coming on. If you're listening to this on the podcast or you're watching this on YouTube, thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next episode of Two Red Chairs. See ya.
Peace.